always ask you this in your IGCSE. So how will they structure the question? They'll structure the question like this.
Nice. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Remove any doubts in your head.
Guys, if you remember last week, I showed you this graph here, right? This graph here is basically showing two specific scenarios. The first scenario where the object is falling with air resistance, there is definitely some air resistance here. And the second scenario where the object is falling without any air resistance. As you can recall, I mentioned that air resistance is, how is air resistance related to speed again? Qingxuan, would you mind answering that question? Jayden, how is air resistance related to speed? How is air related?
Like in terms of what? Like
if the faster I go, will air resistance be higher or will it be lower?
Lower?
Lower your head, lower. What did I tell you the story? If today, okay, next time if you don't know, right? You ask yourself, you put your hand out of the car when your parents are driving. If your car is not moving, that is zero speed, right? If it is zero speed, will you feel any air resistance? No. When the car is moving damn fast, like for example, a highway, right? Suddenly you go do something dumb and you go open the window and you shove your head outwards. Do you feel any air resistance then?
Yeah.
Why will you feel air resistance? Because you know that speed is directly related to air resistance. The faster you go, the air resistance will be
higher.
Yeah, it's supposed to be higher. So first things first is you must associate that air resistance is directly proportional to speed. The higher the speed, the higher the air resistance. The lower the speed, the lower the air resistance. This is the first thing that you guys must remember. Very, very important. Always comes out in your exam one. Right. So if you can understand the air resistance increases with speed, let's just go for a simple drawing here, right? Imagine today at a super high height, right? I have a ball here. Right now I'm holding the ball. When I'm holding the ball, obviously what's going to happen is the speed is going to be 0 meters per second. Oh, by the way, this is without any air resistance. Right now there's no air resistance. Today, if I'm holding the ball, when I let it go immediately, what's going to happen is gravity is going to act upon it, right? And because gravity acts upon it, I know for a fact that gravitational force is going to pull it downwards, right? What's the magnitude of gravity again? Do you guys still remember? Jihin, do you know what's the number for gravity? How much is gravity?
How I know?
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. It probably is going to be in the next chapter. But anyways, gravity is supposed to be 10 meters per second square. If you recall what I mentioned last week, 10 meters per second square, looking at these units itself is supposed to tell you a story, right? Because 10 meters per second square is the same thing as 10 meters per second every second, right? So if it says that gravity says that it's 10 meters per second every second, it means to say every second that goes by, my speed is going to increase by 10 meters per second. This is what gravity means, all right? And since gravity is the only thing that acts upon it, let's say this is time equals to 0 seconds, this is time equals to 1 second. At the next instance, this ball would have gained 10 meters per second, all right? Meaning to say, right now, this guy here will be 10 meters per second. Then at the next time, the ball right now is continue to fall. It's continue to fall. It's continue falling. Continuing its fall. Whatever. Okay. Continuing its fall. Right. Means to say gravity is still acting on it, right? And since gravity is 10 meters per second, the next instance at time equals to t2. How much will the speed be, Jaden?
20.
Sorry?
20.
Good. It is 20. It is 20 meters per second. At the next instance, because the speed of the ball is not capped by air resistance, means to say this ball will consistently be only acted upon by gravity, and ultimately it will be 30 meters per second, and then 40, and then 50, 60, so on, all the way until it smashes into the ground, right? Then the time is going to stop. The speed is going to stop. This scenario is when there is no air resistance. And I mentioned last week that if we are asked to draw a graph of an object falling without any air resistance, a speed time graph will look something like this, right? It will be directly proportional over time. The first second, it will be 10, the second second, it will be 20, the third second, it will be 30, 40, 50, so on, and so on, right? This is how the ball will fall in no air resistance, like what you saw in the video, the last part where the ball and the bowling feather were falling down together, right? But of course, in a normal scenario, there is going to be air resistance, and if there is air resistance today, a second scenario, there is air resistance, because air resistance is always going to act in the opposite direction of you, right? For example, today, if you are running in this direction here, right, your air resistance will be acting in this direction. Usually you'll see this when you're playing catch with your friends, right? If you start running damn fast already, then you can see the wind gushing against, you can feel the wind gushing against your face. That is essentially air resistance. Now, even if you put your hand out of the car when the window is open, the air resistance is acting on your hand because your hand is moving in the opposite direction, right? So the first thing you must understand is that wherever the object is moving, air resistance will be in the opposite direction. That's the first thing. So same scenario today, I have a ball right now. Right now I have a ball. Initially, before I let go of the ball, obviously the speed of the ball is 0 meters per second. As I let go of the ball, pay attention, this is super important. As I let go of the ball, what's going to happen is yet again, gravity is going to act downwards, right? The gravitational force is going to act downwards. And as gravitational force act on it, let's say the speed increases, the speed increases to 10 meters per second. Right now, because this ball has speed already, right? And like just now I mentioned that speed is directly proportional to air resistance. It means to say at the next instance here, although gravity is still 10 meters per second square, how much do you think the speed of the ball will be? Qingshen, how much do you think the speed of the ball will be at this instance here? Will it be more than 20? Will it be 20 or will it be less than 20 here?
Less than 20.
Good. It is definitely going to be less than 20. Why is it going to be less than 20? Because right now, not only is gravity acting on this ball, air resistance is acting on this ball as well, but air resistance will take time to build up. So right now, because you can see that the downward force is clearly more than the upward force, right? Of course, the speed of the ball will still increase up, but it will definitely not be 20. Maybe right now it will be 17 meters per second, right? At the next instance, because the speed of the ball increased again, right? The speed of the ball increases means to say yet again, gravity is going to be consistently acting downwards, the same magnitude throughout all the different times. But air resistance is going to start increasing, right? Because you can clearly see that the speed of the ball increased. If the speed of the ball increases, right now what's going to happen is the air resistance, just now was just a small little arrow, right? Right now, not so much, probably like this much bigger. Right, because as the speed builds up, the air resistance is going to build up as well. So right now, instead of increasing by 7 meters per second, right now it will increase less, because why? The downward force and the upward force, although the downward force is still bigger, but right now it's not that much bigger, right? Maybe right now the jump will be like probably +4, right? So right now the speed will be 21 meters per second. This acceleration here is going to decrease all the way, right, until it's going to be 0. So maybe at the next instance, because the speed of the ball increased again, so what's going to happen is the air resistance is going to increase again. Maybe at the next instance, it will reach its terminal velocity already. Terminal velocity means to say it won't increase in speed anymore. It will be like probably like 22 meters per second. The jump right now is just a plus 1 only, right? Just now was +7, right? Then after that it was +4, then after that it's +1. Means to say, right now, right, if it is +1, the air resistance upwards is almost equals to the gravitational force downwards already, meaning to say, even the ball, if it is allowed to continue falling continuously, right now the downward force and upward force are going to be the same. The speed of the ball will be 22, 22, 22, 22, 22, 22, all the way until it hits the ground already, Why? Because this ball here has already reached terminal velocity. Today, if I draw a graph for a ball falling with air resistance, it will be something like this. You can see that it just now the graph was like one straight line going upwards now because the speed continuously increased. Right now, the graph will not go one straight line upwards. Instead, it will be like this here. It will be like this, increasing, then decreasing, then like this. It will flatline. Not decreasing. The speed won't increase anymore. Initially, like from 0, it will go to 10, then it will go to 17, then it will go to 22, then it will go to 23. Then eventually it's going to flatline already. Right? You can see that it flatlines here already. Flatline here means to say the speed is not going to increase anymore. This is the maximum speed already at this point here. We call it as terminal velocity. Terminal velocity means to say it's at maximum already. It's like at this point here, like 22, 22, 22, 22, all the way around. Probably 22. Let's say 21 here. 22, 22, 22, 22, all the way until it hits the ground already. Why does it not increase in speed anymore? It is because the air resistance upwards is equals to the gravitational force downwards already. This is very, very important. I'll put this into the video later as well. Guys, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, you can rewatch it again. But for those who are here right now, do you understand what I'm talking about or not in terms of terminal velocity? Yeah. Very important. This one here, they always ask you this in your IGCSE. So how will they structure the question? They'll structure the question like this. It will be like one long question, and then it will be 4 marks at the bottom here. It's going to be an same 4-mark question. They'll ask you, they'll say the question will be something like this. State in terms of forces acting on a ball with air resistance. Just a simple sentence like that. The keyword here, they ask you to state in terms of forces, the ball falling with air resistance, right? So you're supposed to say, if you're asked to explain, you're going to say something like, initially, as the ball falls downwards, right? Initially, as the ball falls downwards, because gravitational force is greater than air resistance, the speed of the ball is going to increase. As the ball continues falling and increase in terms of speed, you can see that it increases in terms of speed, right? The air resistance builds up. This slows down the acceleration. You can see that the acceleration from 7 becomes 4 already, right? This slows down the acceleration, and the air resistance will keep on increasing all the way until the downward force is equals to the upward force. When the downward force is equals to the upward force, terminal velocity is reached. The speed of the ball is at maximum already. Okay, I recorded all this. If you want to repeat later on, you can go watch the video. But the more important thing is you need to understand the concept to recall it later on, guys. Anyone here don't know what I'm talking about? Anyone need me to explain it in a different angle? Anyone have any questions so far?